Well, let's speak to Jonathan Davies, an economist and wealth advisor from Hertfordshire, who believes that these figures are not necessarily the good news they're painted out to be. Hi there, Jonathan.
Hi, Olly.
Hi. Why? What aren't we seeing with these headline figures?
That's an interesting thing you say there. They're headline figures. Let's look at the detail. 8.5 million part-timers. Almost as many self-employed as there are in the public sector, and the public sector earns a great deal more than those who are self-employed. Millions on merely the minimum wage. So, underlying the high employment number, actually, for a lot of folk, millions and millions of folk, they're struggling to break even. In fact, when you look at the bigger picture, the bottom 60% of folk, of earners, are earning the same or less than they were in 1999 or 2000. That's where we are. And then add on, you say that wages have risen 2-something%. Well, that's funny because RPI is running about 4%. So wages may have risen, but actually people are earning, their purchasing power has gone down.
Okay, so when the Chancellor tweets to say this is good news for every family, is he simply wrong?
Yes.
The statistics, though, are that they have more money now than they did 3 months ago, even if their spending power, as you say, isn't as big as it might have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, three months, as you know, is neither here nor there. And then look at the other big picture. As an economist, I'm looking at charts and indices literally daily.
And
the one that I've been focusing on over the last year is employment and indeed unemployment over the last 20 years in relation to the economy generally. And it is troubling that in 1998 and 99, just before the dot-com crash, in other words, the early 90s recession, employment peaked and unemployment troughed. 2006, 2007, just before the banking collapse and the great financial recession, employment peaked and unemployment troughed. And here we are again, no doubt, high employment, low unemployment, although at much lower levels of aggregate pay. Thus, does this actually suggest that we're coming to the end of the economic upcycle which started in 2009? I have said to Rob Peroni a number of times, and I say it to you, I actually think that's exactly what it means. The Bank of England stimulus, in effect, zero interest rates, quantitative easing, money printing, bailing out the banks, keeping zombie companies alive, which shouldn't be alive, should be allowed to go bust. This has brought us to a mild economic upcycle, about 1 or 2% per annum growth, but if we're on the edges of the economic upcycle, then what comes next is recession. I'm not saying tomorrow or next month, but I just suggest to you that it's increasingly likely that we could be moving into recession for about next year.
And, I mean, that's fascinating. I mean, you didn't say the B word, so I will. With everyone being diverted politically by Brexit, is this a danger of something that could just sort of boil along in the background without people noticing?
Well, the BBC and the rest of the media and most of the politicians want people to believe that Brexit is maybe not the be-all and end-all, but it's a major influencing factor in the economy. I have said to BBC Three Counties Radio many times, it has absolutely zero effect on the economy. We're not going to Brexit until, at the earliest, 2019. So there has been absolutely no change to the economy up till now.
People are making plans, aren't they, over the next few months in preparation for the fact that we've now passed into law that we're leaving the EU?
Nothing's going to affect the general economy because of Brexit. the general economy might be affected by the global economy, but no. And you know, we could argue about Brexit and the economy till the cows come home. My view actually is that Brexit will benefit the economy, but even I am saying we should treat it as neutral. It has no effect.
I want to ask you one further question, just because Joe from Bedford's texted me whilst we've been talking, 81333, start your message 3CR, and says, Ollie, those figures count people on 0-hour contracts as being in full-time employment, which they're not. So what are we led to believe? Now, is that true? Do those figures include people on 0-hour contracts?
I have to say to you, I don't know the answer to that. What I do know, however, which might help in this conversation, is that the numbers on 0-hour contracts has actually gone down 20,000 in the last year. Now, of course, in case listeners don't realise, just because it's a 0-hour contract doesn't mean that people work 0 hours. It just means that employers are not bound to give any hours to an employee. I don't know whether or not 0 hours are treated as full-time.
Fair enough. Okay, great to speak to you, Jonathan. Very provocative and interesting stuff. Jonathan Davis there, local economist.